Phil Robertson is the Deputy Director of the Asia Division at Human Rights Watch. He joins me live on the line from Canberra. Welcome to you, Phil. I'll tell you how it looks to me and then you tell me how it really is. I'm thinking this can't be coincidence. He returns after 15 years in exile and serves just 6 months, not even in prison, but in a hospital. Could it be that Thaksin, his return was a brokered deal?
Oh, it's very clearly a deal. That's absolutely obvious. Thaksin Shinawatra returned to Thailand to face the legal system right as his party's leader, Seta Thavisin, was being elected as prime minister by the parliament. Actually, what happened was the conservative ruling elite decided that the reformers of the Move Forward party, who actually won the most seats in the May 2023 election, were actually more dangerous to the status quo than Thaksin, and so they made the deal. And as part of that deal, Thaksin has done a deal with the devil. He's done a deal with the Pheu Thai, the two military-controlled parties that were led by the coup makers, Generals Prayut Chan-o-cha and Prawit Wongsuwan. So, we're now looking at a deal that was done. Thaksin is out. And the next step, I think, is that there's a very serious possibility the Thai elite is going to dissolve the Move Forward party and ban its leaders, which would show total disdain for people's choice in the last election and would be a major blow for Thai democracy and human rights.
Personally, as an Englishman, my familiarity with Thaksin Shinawatra was that he became the owner of Manchester City Football Club at one point. It was a bizarre kind of chapter in his life. How would you assess his popularity in Thailand? And perhaps being the owner of that club helped his popularity at some point. But he swept to power on the back of landslide political election victories. But then there were protests against him in 2006. And the military used the claim that because of those protests, they had to overthrow him.
Well, I mean, he made a lot of money in owning that football club when he sold it, and that was what Thaksin was doing when he was overseas. And, he is still quite popular, particularly in the Northeast and the northern parts of the country where people remember his time as, an economic leader, a time of economic progress. They remember his role in starting the universal health care scheme and other social welfare programs that they appreciated. And it's important to recognize that the North and the Northeast in Thailand still account for between a third and a half of the entire Thai population. There is a group of people that I would characterize as never Thaksin protesters, but their size is quite small now, and I think that they're becoming historically irrelevant. So, the big issue is that there's been a deal within the conservative establishment with Thaksin and with the Pheu Thai party, because there's now a new group, the Move Forward party, who are seen to be more threatening the status quo than Thaksin. And that's astonishing because you have old enemies become allies to prevent further progress and reform and human rights.
If you look around the world, we see that having been to prison is not a barrier to then returning to a position of power in politics. Also, at 74 years old, he's relatively young compared to some global leaders. Could we see Thaksin Shinawatra back in politics, or is this really just about him coming home?
Well, it's important to recognize that he really never left politics. He left elected office. He was removed in a military coup, which was a rights-abusing military coup. But the bottom line was that he has always been involved in the major decisions that have been taken by the party since he left the country. Major decisions on major policies are all going to come to him. And that will continue despite the fact that you have Seta Thavisin as the prime minister. I'm sure Seta is going to be increasingly looking over his shoulder now that Thaksin's out. But it's important to recognize that Thaksin is going to be required to remain in his house for the next 6 months. He is under house arrest. He is still under a prison sentence, and he will not be able to leave his house without permission. So I don't think we're going to be seeing a lot of him in the next 6 months. But after that, anything is possible.
Phil, really appreciate your analysis. Fascinating stuff. Phil Robertson is my guest. He's the Deputy Director of the Asia Division at Human Rights Watch.
Thank you.